What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to BRICkast for another episode of Minifigure Machine. And well, everyone is dressing up for America's most important holiday. I figured that I would go ahead and dress up my Legos into a Halloween themed edition of Minifigure Machine for you. So as I keep my Lego heads from rolling away, I'm going to put these minifigures together. Before we get started, if you are watching from afar and have not subscribed, go ahead and do it. Don't be this minifigure. So now that you've subscribed, let's take a look at some spooky minifigures. So first up is the sort of mascot of this whole project. This minifigure is called the Grave Keeper. So I built a small diorama of a graveyard to display these figures on, and this guy sort of came right along with that idea as the keeper of the graveyard that I built. My inspiration for this figure really came from his cape, which comes from the Harry Potter Dementor minifigures. It's got a nice tattered look, and it's perfect for a character maybe shining a lantern through a graveyard on a rainy, windy night. So this cape immediately made me think of that cliche horror character, you know, the one that stops the lowly college kids on their way up to the spooky road and says something like, you know, beware the dangers of these roads, or travel onward if you dare. So that was kind of the idea with this minifigure. So these characters, they always carry lanterns for some reason, like despite the time period. I don't know, I think it's just so they can have the effect of shining creepy light at the protagonists. Either way, I wanted to brick build it to make it look kind of clunky and primitive, and I think the pieces I used here worked pretty well. I also am super happy with the trans neon green color that I used for the light. It added kind of a creepy tint and an eerie tone to the lantern. The eye patch, paired with the slightly frowny expression, I think it perfectly fits the character of a hunched over, cynical, haunted old gravekeeper. Here's the next spooky character who has an awesome accessory, his steed, his mount. Whatever you call it, it is a super wicked skeleton horse, and it looks awesome with this guy. Not to mention, he's also headless. He wears one of my favorite night bodies, pretty much because I imagine this character is some sort of ancient ghost from medieval times, you know, haunting old battlegrounds or cursed spooky dungeons or castles. And, you know, the body is awesome because it comes with some super nice leg printing, some awesome reflective prints, and I love those bronze chains over the chest plate. They just give this really like a sinister sort of executioner vibe. So the head in his hand wears the Scorpion Knight helmet from the Knight's Kingdom, which was a theme that, you know, brought some awesome different visors. They were cool shapes, and they all mounted onto motorcycle helmets. You know, I really wish LEGO would kind of revisit knight visors like this. Those were awesome. Underneath his helmet is a black skull, which is kind of a rare piece. I believe it originates from Alpha Team. But honestly, I love how it adds even more spookiness to an already spooky LEGO classic. So here's what he looks like again on his not-so-noble steed. And the horse, which debuted in the LEGO Castle in 2007, has an interesting connector on its head where I was able to attach that horn piece for some added spookiness. Just don't ask me how he manages to control that horse and carry his head and wield a sword all at the same time. Maybe skeletons are just really good multitaskers. Next up is by far the strangest of the bunch, the weirdest of the weird. It's the Undead Marksman, the Gunslinger. That's what he became known as because of his akimbo pistols. So there's not really much custom work here on his body. This figure is just basically the mummy figure from Series 3 of the Minifigure series, with some obvious extra flair added on. This one wasn't my handiwork. He was actually built a while ago by my friend Raphael, who you know from the channel, and this bizarre, ugly creature, he was basically just born one day when we were experimenting with custom minifigures, and I've got to say, I had to feature him on this episode. This character really is a mix of hilariousness and bone-chilling spookiness. I mean, how would you react if this dude came to your door asking for candy? He's probably more into tricks than treats, I can imagine. This figure has beautiful leg and arm printing. It's got the mummy wrap along the sides and front. But by far, my favorite part about this custom figure are the Western-style revolvers, which come from brick arms, custom Lego weapons. It makes me think of this character dueling some other ghastly ghost or ghoul in a weird, spooky-themed Western town. Yeah, I know, my mind kind of goes to weird places. Wait a minute. He's a mummy, so it would have to be in Egypt. You know what? Just ask Raphael. This one's too weird for me to explain. So these next figures have me wondering, you know, what's spookier? Intentioned evil or unchecked, unlimited mischief? I don't know, if I encountered these guys, I might be a little worried about mischief. So these two are made up from much more recent parts. I think from Ninjago, Superhero, and Nexo Knights sets. I guess not including the Dynamite. So happening upon two of these matching devilish heads really gave me the idea for these sort of like twin mischievous dwarf devil creatures, and there weren't a lot of those off-color minifigure heads running around in my collection when I was a kid, so having some now gave me some inspiration to make some really crazy characters out of these. So the first one has this super exaggerated facial expression, and his jester hat really just adds to the mischievous theme of the mini devils. And if you're familiar with the BRICkast cinematic universe, you can see that fire piece on his hand that was used in the BattleBots build-off video. The second devil wields 2 sticks of dynamite, and he has an eye patch, so be warned if you're around this guy. I can't imagine his aim is very good with those things. I decided this guy needed something extra, so I wrapped him in this brown chain right here, kind of trying to make it look like, you know, he just escaped from a mad necromancer's secret lockbox, and now he's running rampant with dynamite. So next up is the hooded ghoul. Now this spooky minifigure is perhaps the most mysterious of them all. I'm not really sure what makes this guy scary. Like, what does he do other than fly around? I mean, I don't really know, but I certainly wouldn't want to encounter him. Anyway, I really want to highlight this clear green head that I used here. I have had these in my collection since I got this old Batman set, and I remember wanting that set as a kid, not even because I thought Batman was cool, but because I wanted those mysterious clear green heads. And why, you ask? Well, I love that color. It's, you know, always been one of my favorite transparent Lego colors. I've used it on other builds even in this video, like the Gravekeeper's lantern, and like I said, those kind of heads were a lot rarer back in the day. Hood and the body all come from the Star Wars Imperial Guards. They had a set of dark ones with red visors, and I just replaced the red visor, so pretty simple modification. And in case you're wondering why his cape is flying the opposite direction, I think that's just what it does when he flies around, you know? It's updraft from the levitation power. Now, if Halloween is about otherworldly horrors, then it's definitely not limited to creatures of our own world. That's why I decided to inject my love for science fiction horror into this video, and I present really my favorite figure of today's episode, the Apex Predator. So where to start with this character? I don't know. I mean, the helmet is so great, and really it's not a helmet. It's meant to depict the shape of the alien's head. It just mounts onto a minifigure head in the same way that a helmet would. And so I actually don't know the origin of that piece, but it just really reminds me of the sci-fi horror mainstay Predator. who honestly looks way cooler than his namesake movie, and this figure was definitely inspired by that character. So anyway, combine that with an Avengers Outrider body, some Dark Trooper Stormtrooper legs, and you have a recipe for a killer space alien bounty hunter. This one's really got a lot of fun details in the printing. I especially enjoy how the yellow eyes match the yellow detailing on the body. That was kind of an accident, but this figure honestly kind of shows that sometimes pieces from different sets go super well together. The Apex Predator wields only melee weapons because using guns would take the fun challenge out of hunting unsuspected spacers. This minifigure inspired this photo, which might be my favorite Lego photo I've ever taken. And honestly, just goes to show that this minifigure is spooky enough to wipe that smug smile off of every Lego spaceman's face. So that brings us to our 7th and final minifigure, the Pumpkin Carver. Now, this terrifying amalgamation of death, it didn't totally come from my own mind. You know, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not, but instead it came from this wicked sticker that I have on my water bottle. I mean, you cannot deny that amazing resemblance. This horror punk sticker is a mainstay in my collection of punk rock art, and when I realized that I had a jack-o'-lantern head in my Lego collection, I decided that I needed to immortalize this character in Lego form. So as far as the figure goes, the head is one of the many variants of pumpkin heads released by Lego, and I think it's one of the earlier ones just based on the printing. The body is the old school Catwoman body, which has some nice purple streaks that add a great mid-tone accent to the orange and black Halloween color scheme. I will admit it does make her a little overdressed compared to the depiction she's based on, but admittedly, Lego's a kid's toy, so I'll cut myself a little slack on that one. So the crow is just a brick-built accessory that I came up with, and honestly I'm super proud of how it looks just perched there on the scythe. Just goes to show how regular bricks can really enhance any minifigure custom. And finally, the scythe, a staple Halloween weapon, easy to find in any Halloween store bargain bin, makes a fitting weapon of choice for the pumpkin carver, but something tells me she's probably not using it to carve pumpkins. It's that scythe element that made me think specifically of Halloween, and the sword with a clip on the end honestly works perfectly for creating a spooky scythe Halloween weapon necessary for this character. As always, half the fun of Lego is creating characters to inhabit our imaginative worlds and fuel our creations. So thanks for listening. Will I share some characters with you? Happy Halloween, everybody. Go get as much candy as you can and scarf it down. I hope that brings you some spooky joy this Halloween. Until next time, this has been Drew with BRICkast.